Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. I wouldn't say that I am particularly sexist, but... Sexists, why are you sexist? Hello all, before the video starts, I want to say a few things, since some submissions for this video are actually really toxic in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate your honesty, but damn, some of the comments made me fear we all end up in the Middle Ages again. I think it is so sad to see that people blame an entire gender for the misdoings of a few toxic individuals. How can you blame an entire group, religion or gender for some bad things a minority of group members have done? I don't get it. This is a recurring theme in my video comments as well. People share their bad experiences about Group X, therefore all people of said group are somehow bad people. I cannot scope how anyone can seriously believe that this is how things work. Please don't allow the media, politicians and extremists to divide you from other people based on natural characteristics. Anyway, Papa TTS does not stand for sexism, but if you want to hear how sexists think, then you are at the right spot. Enjoy the video. Former sexist here. Sexism usually stemmed from me being rejected by women for years. I was always wondering why women wanted to go out with other guys instead of me. I wasn't unattractive or would most likely not dump them. I was a nice guy back then and it makes me cringe to this day. It stressed me out a lot because I was graduating high school and had some important exams. In late 2016, I discovered those self-help videos. These were red pill type. While they cut me out of my nice guy BS, I began to fall into a deep PMO addiction and some severe depression. By this time I was a first year in college. I started hating women and always thought of them as this dumber and more useless half of the population that was only good for intercourse. I thought that they were completely incapable of being 100% independent and that they had unbelievable standards of men. In short, I was an incel. 2 years later, I discovered No Nut November, which helped me regain some self-confidence and it built up lots of energy and productivity. I started to make more friends and hit the gym more. One of my friends helped make me realize that being an incel was wrong. I'm a woman. I'm sexist towards both genders, but particularly other women. My whole life, women in my life have been telling me that men would want me to shave and men would want me to be skinny, and men would want me to wear makeup etc. etc. Of course, I have met some men who have preferences. But you know who cares when I don't shave, when I gain weight, or lose too much, or when I don't wear makeup? Women. Only have other women ever bullied me? I think it's a jealousy thing, but I don't know. I've always gotten along better and been friends with mostly men. Not to mention the fact that women in first world countries have the audacity to act like we aren't equal. Tell that to the women in Nigeria. A woman in America would never receive the same treatment. Any woman in America can succeed by selling her body on the internet, or by manipulating people to her advantage in another way. Women in other countries are suffering massively and all American women do is preach feminism, march for their lack of rights, instead of actually doing anything to challenge the so-called American patriarchy. Anyway, I have gotten to the point where I distance myself from other women. I'm so unbelievably sick of the toxicity. My sexism has protected me in so many ways. Recently, I just wish I didn't feel this way, because dislike of an entire group is a harsh generalization. I wouldn't say that I'm sexist. There are women in my life that I love, and hold dear. I guess I would say that I'm more or less cold towards the issues that sexist, feminist women claim to face. If one was to call that sexist, then my reasoning is this. You want the same men, the ones you see as inferior, faulty, evil, and tyrannical to help solve the issues women face? Men can be feminist allies, but their voices mean nothing? The issues that men face mean nothing? The homelessness? You still expect men to hold open your doors? Fight your wars? Put out your fires? Police your neighborhoods? Father your children? You all still dream of that overly romanticized wedding, yet call men cowardly or weak for not wanting to deal with your toxicity? Media outlets put out all these spiteful, degrading, and quite frankly, hurtful hit pieces on men, and you dare want us to love and respect you? F you. That is why men become sexist, and that is why some become bachelors, red pillars, and what have you. When you say all these hurtful things about us because of whatever some other dude did to you, or whatever societal wrong you felt was afflicted upon you, you no longer have the right to complain when the very same men retaliate with equal hatred in return. This used to be my catchphrase since I've grown out of the red pill community. I don't hate women, but I don't blame the men who do. If you're sexist towards me, then I don't care about your rights or want your suffering. F you if you're one of those man-hating feminists, or women who lack accountability for their horrible choices in life. For context, I'm female. I wish men would go back to being men like they were in the 50s. Opening doors, paying for dates, making the first move. Basic things that equality has effed us over for, and what did it get us? Working a dead-end job that doesn't even scrape the surface of my student debt when I could have just married a nice, stable guy that would take care of me. A man does all that and wants me to clean the house he's paying for, cook for us with food he bought, and take care of our kids? Sign me the hell up. However, men nowadays seem to think that they can ask us for a sandwich while they're playing their PS4 in their mom's basement. You want me to make you a sandwich? Buy me a house. Because I think it's natural. Think about it, most civilizations usually saw women as slightly inferior to men. Or at least fit for different functions, and to me they seem as a whole more submissive in general, while men are typically more go-getters and get things done. And historically this was natural. Not everyone came together and said, hey guys, women are lesser to men. It's just something occurred in time. Both genders have a role, women ensuring the next generation is brought up right, and men taking care of society as a whole to make sure it functions. Most women aren't really suited for men's work either, and economically, they're competing in the same fields of men, making work to find just that much more harder to find for anyone. You can also see the kind of jobs that women gravitate towards, such as nurturing careers like teaching, counseling, caretaking, nursing, etc. Obviously there's some overlap, as a man can go into those fields, and women can go into men's fields and excel. And of course, I'm not gonna treat them lesser or different from anyone else, as women are people too. But they do have roles, and I legitimately think they were allowed to stray a bit too far from their destined roles. I would like to start off by mentioning that I am a female. But it's not men I have a problem with, it's other females. I'm trying not to sound like a not like other girls type girl. The hateful attitude I have towards women, particularly those who take advantage of their partners and lie about being harassed as to ruin a man's life, is not because I am desperate for male attention. I just find women so hypocritical and deceitful. I used to be a Western feminist and would regularly advocate for women's rights. Up until now, I had the false notion that women could do anything a man can do. While I would routinely encourage female empowerment in the workplace and other anti-sexism and pro-equality movements, I didn't realize that I, myself, was being a sexist lunatic the same time I was encouraging gender equality. Trashing on men, wanting to kill all men, and other horrific anti-men slogans were being associated with the same movement I was a part of. I was taken aback and tried to convince myself that these sexist mottos only existed within the feminist movement, right? Not all females? I only hope so. While some women would defend men, the majority of them will stay quiet on issues revolving around males being mistreated, etc. I am ashamed to be female and have my name associated with these buttholes. I wouldn't call myself sexist per se, because I don't consider women inferior for this, just different. But I've recently come to the conclusion that women are not objective people. They perceive the world not as it is, but how it makes them feel, regardless of how divorced from reality those feelings may be. If you get into a disagreement with a woman and she feels you yelled at her, then in her mind, you did in fact yell at her even if you didn't. When she recounts the story to other people, that is how you will be received by her audience. They, women, put way more stock into how something is said versus what the actual contents of the statement is. And because of that, I find myself constantly monitoring my wording and tone around most of them. And it's tiring, so I don't make a habit of talking to them if I don't have to. My partner is the only exception to this intolerance I'll allow, because she's worth it, but anytime a woman gets upset at something I said because of how she perceived it, it's hard not to roll my eyes. So while I wouldn't say I'm sexist outright, this pretty anecdotal generalization does color my interactions with them in a way that's pretty damn biased. I won't say that I am particularly sexist, but I tend to avoid women a lot. I had an extremely bad experience whereby my cousin was falsely accused by women until a lawyer came out and proved the claim is false. But there's one thing that stands: women's words are taken far more heavily than a man's one. If a woman says I'm harassed, everybody immediately responds and demands the perpetrator be sentenced to 10 to 20 years of jail. But if it's a man, I have seen countless reports where he just gets totally ignored and taken as a joke. I don't go to the extreme that women should not work at all, but they should have their own separate workplace or area. I am sexist and tend to be watchful around women, because I do not want to suffer the fate my cousin did or have other accusations coming in. I am a male and I am sexist towards other men. I hate men for the simple fact that they are the scum of the earth. Men commit most of the murders on this planet. Not to mention the other men on this list along with me slandering women. What about your mother? What about your grandmother? Men are the source of most of our problems. They complain and try to say women have it easier, but women have to live up to these impossible beauty standards, a 9-inch waist and double D boobs. And then these creatures complain when a woman wants a man with a penis size over 6 inches. Are you serious? Men go around starting whole wars and pushing entire races into slavery. They go around acting like they have it so hard. I hate them with every fiber of my entire being. The way they look, the way they will turn down any girl who doesn't look like a supermodel, but when a girl doesn't show interest in them, all of a sudden all nice guys finish last, or these hoes are the same. When a boy loses his virginity, he's seen as cool, but when a girl loses her virginity, she's all of a sudden for the streets. Men are so self-entitled, starting wars and killing and abusing entire ethnic groups for simply existing. I am going to preface this by saying, I am female myself. The majority of women are just intolerable and idiotic. Now, there are many fantastic women out there that kick butt, but I'm speaking of the majority. They are so dumb and unoriginal. They only care about what this girl is doing and such, and they're so focused on looks. They also get offended if they get called girly, or a tomboy. Nobody cares if you're a girly girl or a tomboy. I'm not like other girls because I stay at home in sweatpants and eat pizza. Girls are just really annoying. Also, the way they handle their emotions is just dumb. In a relationship, if their partner isn't giving them attention, they get angry and storm away and don't tell them what's wrong just so they can have the attention turned to them instead of what their partner was paying attention to before. They make everything a guessing game with them. I just wish they'd be authentic and be themselves instead of worrying about this girl doing that and wishing they could be like them. Their minds are so clouded by what other people are doing, they don't focus on themselves and have very limited interests and knowledge. They also suck at communicating. I live in South Asia, and I've hated men for the entirety of my life. This stems from the innumerable amount of terrible experiences that I, and the women around me, have faced. I was groped by a man for the first time when I was 8, when I didn't know what harassment even meant. I've had men sit beside me in a public transport when there were numerous empty seats present only to brush their thighs against mine. I've seen men violating young girls and getting away with it. I've seen a group of men threaten a victim's family because the family decided to speak up. I'm afraid of saying no to men, because I may get acid thrown on my face the next day. Just a day or two ago, a girl got shot because she refused to marry the man who shot her. Women get burned in the middle of roads if they refuse to listen to men, and I'm not even exaggerating. Women here worship men when they do the bare minimum of not violating them. I hate men because even after witnessing and sometimes even being a part of these incidents, they find creative ways to somehow blame women again. Honestly, I would get it if some man hates women because some girl wronged him. I saw the video of the gay guy who hated women because all his life he was ill-treated by women, and honestly, I get it. Generalizing and stereotyping, as disgusting as it sounds, is something which I cannot stop doing when it comes to men. I mean, I know not all men, but how do I know not which men? A lot of women tend to forget how the world used to be structured from the days of cavemen all the way to Victorian era, Industrial Revolution to earlier modern-day society. There is a reason why men led and are the forefront of the household. We had to fight wars to protect our land, families, loved ones and offspring. This is one of my major dislikes for feminism. They spit in the face of our sacrifices as men, and some extremists say we are the enemy and all men should die, but these same women want preferential treatment cause they are women? Make it make sense. They want to hit men and touch us as they please, but you can't even smile at them. A woman hits you and you raise your hand and you are labeled a misogynist for defending yourself. They want to compete in men's sport but can't match up physical. They want equal pay in men's sports but don't bring in as much money or crowd, and don't even play as good as men but want the money to mysteriously enter their accounts. Then their pay gap myth. There is obvious evidence men work longer hours and take greater risks. And most successful women don't label themselves feminists because they know, if you want to be successful in this man's world you need to play like one of the boys, and the game is ruthless. I wouldn't define myself as sexist, but I do find myself hating men a lot. Although not any man, more like Middle Eastern men, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India etc. You might think I'm one of those who just feels superior to men or something, But that's really not it. I really have my reasons. I'm from a third world country, where women are treated as properties. They are not allowed to do things they like, wear things they like, laugh loudly, go out with friends, etc. But the worst thing is, women are not valued. One would think they are, but no, it's their virginity that is valued. Do you know why in Afghanistan girls are less kidnapped than men? Because it is known to everyone that if you kidnap a girl, her family would not even want her back, let alone give you money. I really love everyone, no matter the gender, but the men who treat women like dirt and control their lives, I just hope they will someday end up in guillotines. I am a female that supports men over women. I can't help that I am, it just seems to come out. After hearing so many stories about how we have discriminated against and stereotyped men, I have grown to be more empathetic towards men and more cold towards women. Why are men the only ones who can be pedos? Why are men the only sex that can cheat? Honestly, it makes me angry. On top of that, my friends are mainly males, but because of personality, not sexism, so it fuels my idealization way more. I am sick of thinking this way. I am sick of myself. The only extent my sexism goes to is just me thinking women are more manipulative and can get away with a lot more. I don't support women working in the kitchen all day or some BS. I am keeping this inside and trying to fix my issues. It's just that it seems like women are being treated more lightly and everything seems to be excused for them, and it also seems that they can be ruder at times. The way I think doesn't get out of my mind, so it doesn't affect my relationships. I excuse some bad things men do, though. Anyways, thank you for hearing me out. I am sorry for being a burden to society and I hope I can be fixed soon. I'm not sexist per se, but I do have some ire towards women in general. I believe that most women nowadays, or at least most women in my area nowadays, are seemingly very entitled and privileged, especially with the belief that men are getting paid more or are being treated better just because of our gender. When I was in school, girls could do whatever they wanted and they would never get called out for it. But the teachers would always single out the boys for no reason whatsoever. I've even been attacked by girls twice in my school career and no sort of punishment ever befell them. I got choked by one of them in a crowded lunchroom and she faced no punishment. But the one thing that sets me off is this BS notion of toxic masculinity and how all men are misogynistic. But at the same time they believe they are perfect and can do no wrong. Especially with the divorce courts, and how women can falsely accuse a man and she needs to prove nothing about it. It's to the point where I'm scared of going to college, or getting married, or even working for a big company because of all of this. I'm afraid of getting married at 16. And all I hear now is vitriol against men, boys, and everything masculine. I'm sexist because I feel disenfranchised, unprotected, and I feel that modern women have almost ruined marriage, having children, and being a male anywhere. I don't consider myself a sexist, but I harbor a profound hatred for Western feminism. Every time I hear a woman saying she's a feminist, my brain autocorrects it to I'm an entitled puss and I think women are better than men. Since we live in a Western society where women and men are seen as equals, every time I hear some idiot complaining about wage gap, men spreading, etc., I need to restrain myself from not sinking the witch's nose inside her skull. If anything, women are superior to men here since they have a ton of rights. We aren't forced to enlist and go to war, and they have the power to end a man's life with a false claim. You are not being paid less because you're a woman. You are being paid less because statistically, women go for lower paying jobs than men. If you're a woman, and you decide you want to be a doctor, engineer or CEO, I can guarantee you'll be making as much as your fellow men. Because, it's a crime to pay someone less than others because of a genetic fallacy. I'm sick of hearing stuff like but women do not have enough representation in STEM fields. How about maybe, just maybe, instead of complaining about this inequality, you should apply to STEM instead of gender studies? Oh, but girls are discouraged by their teachers to apply to STEM because they're girls. Firstly, no they aren't. Secondly, if they are, how about you prove that misogynistic a-hole that you can get into whatever field you want? For F's sake, stop complaining about imaginary problems and either accept that you are in an equal or better position to other men, or go defend women in a third world country who get executed because they didn't behave accordingly. They are the ones who need feminism. Not 16-year-old Cassandra complaining about the existence of white cis males on Tumblr. Looking at the biological differences between men and women, it's quite obvious that we are not the same. There are glaring differences that many seem to ignore. Men have more muscle mass and more evenly distributed fat, mostly, while women have areas with a lot of fat that make running and other physically intensive activities more difficult. Men seem to be less neurotic and handle stressful situations more effectively because evolution dictated it. For millions of years humans and our ancestors have lived in the traditional social setup. Men hunt, protect, and build, while women parent, gather, and craft. It makes sense to play to your strength and do what evolution designed for you to do. However, recently, in the last 100 years, women have striven for equality, which sort of makes me raise an eyebrow. I am of the belief that women are a protected class. They receive less harsh punishment in courts, custody battles are a joke, and they even pay less for insurance. So the term equality would mean that all those perks are stripped away and they are expected to be as productive as the men in any given field. However, it seems to me that women were just sort of shoehorned into the working world and still seem to be a protected class. A couple of great examples is music and comedy. I do not listen to essentially any music with a female singer, and I don't watch any female comedians because they are all the same. They only refer to genitalia and taking money from men. Women, especially attractive women, do not have to try in this world, and so I do not support their work. I am not sure if that makes me a sexist, but there you go. I'm a woman who is sexist towards women. I'm working on it, but I'm still pretty bad. Like probably a lot of people who dislike a particular sex. My main reason is that I've had a lot of bad experiences with women. My mom cheated on my dad and it destroyed the family. She also physically mistreated me, my siblings, and my dad. My sister was a bad role model who tried to convince me to be promiscuous at 10. My friends at school were all girls and they ignored me, left me out, also tried to encourage promiscuity, and so on. They would insult their boyfriends behind their backs and cheat on them, and then one whose cheating was discovered after she bragged about it, ended up making a false accusation to avoid being dumped. The only female friend I had since then engaged in creepy behaviors with a 12-year-old, not sure if anything happened between them. These are just a few examples of things I've seen and dealt with. When I made friends with guys, I didn't get any of that stuff, like at all. Guys accepted me for the awkward nerd I am, didn't ignore me quite so much, and treated each other well. It might have been because of a not-so-platonic interest in me, but I'll take that over those girls any day. As you can probably expect, I also went through a not like other girls phase because I thought I was legitimately different from all of the horrible women I've dealt with. That phase is over now, but during that phase I also became closely associated with anti-feminist circles, and not the rational kind. I mean the incels, red pillars, that kind of stuff, who frequently posted sexist stuff that I so desperately tried to avoid being. It definitely fueled the sexism, especially with me being a young teenager when I started. As I said, I'm trying to fix it. It's been difficult, but I'm a lot more aware of how harmful my thinking is and have been making an effort to look at the other side of things and engage in feminine circles so I can maybe one day stop hating my own gender. Anyway, thank you for reading this. I am what is now considered sexist nowadays, because I recognize the biological differences in roles between men and women. Women are better suited for activities such as cooking, cleaning, and obviously taking care of the children. Now the key phrase here is better suited. Can women get masters and doctorates? Yes, I would even encourage some women to do so, especially women who aren't suited to mother children, let's be honest. Men can also engage in cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the children, and I believe they should. It's quite enjoyable actually. But men are biologically better suited for work and labor. This issue had never escalated to the level it is now because of the fact that the workforce has changed so much over the past century. A large part due to the establishment and popularity of office jobs in contrast to the previously more common manual labor. Now suddenly all the women want to work and have their office. Although women can certainly engage in the workforce efficiently, and some should, they are biologically better suited for raising children and tending to the house. Same goes with men, but vice versa. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. And special thanks for submitting your answers. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more community videos. Click the right box for the related playlist. Let us know in the comments what you think about these statements.